a blood-stained throne, a prince raised by his enemies, a ruler whose very name would inspire the most famous vampire tale ever told. This is the true story of Vlad III, the man history remembers as Vlad the Impaler, or by his patronymic name, Dracula. To understand the man who would become one of history's most feared rulers, we must first understand the world he was born into. The year was 1431, and Europe was a continent divided. In the east, the powerful Ottoman Empire expanded its territories, while Christian kingdoms struggled to maintain their independence. Vlad was born into the house of Draculesti, a noble family of Wallachia, in modern-day Romania. His father, Vlad II, gained the nickname Dracula after joining a secretive order of knights called the Order of the Dragon. Young Vlad became known as Dracula, meaning son of Dracul. But being born into nobility didn't guarantee a peaceful childhood. Wallachia sat precariously between the Hungarian kingdom and the Ottoman Empire, forcing its rulers to play a dangerous game of political survival. In 1442, everything changed. Vlad's father made a terrible choice. To ensure peace with the Ottomans, he sent his two sons, Vlad III and Radu, as political hostages to Sultan Murad II's court. Within the opulent walls of the Ottoman court, young Vlad and his brother received an education that would shape their futures. They learned the arts of war and peace, horsemanship, swordsmanship, languages, science, and philosophy. While his younger brother Radu thrived, embracing Ottoman culture and converting to Islam, Vlad grew bitter. He watched as his captors lavished attention on his brother while treating him with suspicion. These years would forge his character in ways no one could have predicted. By 1447, tragedy struck. Vlad's father was murdered, and his older brother was buried alive by Hungarian-supporting noblemen. At just 16, Vlad III found himself heir to a throne soaked in his family's blood. His path to power was anything but straight. Over the next several years, Vlad would lose and regain his throne multiple times. Each defeat taught him valuable lessons about trust, power, and the price of mercy, or lack thereof. When he finally secured his rule in 1456, Vlad began a systematic campaign to strengthen his position. His first targets, the boyars, powerful noble families who had long manipulated Wallachian politics for their own gain. One of the most famous stories about Vlad's early reign involves an Easter feast. He invited hundreds of boyar families to dine with him. As the meal ended, his soldiers sealed the hall. The older boyars and their families were immediately arrested and impaled. The younger and healthier ones were forced to march 50 miles to rebuild his castle. Legend says these nobles and their families worked on his castle until their clothes fell off their bodies and they died from exhaustion. This wasn't mere cruelty. It was a calculated move to break the power of the noble class that had long undermined Wallachian rulers. But Vlad's reign wasn't all terror. He implemented strict laws against theft and dishonesty. According to stories, he placed a golden cup in the central square of Targoviste. Anyone could drink from it, but no one dared steal it. Crime dropped significantly during his rule. In 1462, Vlad faced his greatest challenge. Sultan Mehmet II, fresh from conquering Constantinople, launched an invasion of Wallachia with an army of 150,000 men, vastly outnumbering Vlad's forces. But Vlad had prepared. He employed a scorched earth policy, poisoning wells, burning crops, and leaving nothing for the Ottoman army to sustain itself. His forces used guerrilla tactics, launching devastating night raids on Ottoman camps. The most daring of these was the famous night attack near Targoviste. Vlad himself, disguised in Turkish clothing, led a small force into the Ottoman camp at night. While they failed to kill the Sultan, they created such chaos that Ottoman soldiers spent hours killing each other in confusion. When the Ottoman army finally reached Targovist, they found a site that would become known as the Forest of the Impaled. Thousands of Ottoman prisoners had been impaled on stakes, their decomposing bodies creating a horrific spectacle designed to break the enemy's morale. Much of what we know about Vlad comes from three types of sources: Romanian chronicles that generally praise him, German manuscripts that portray him as a tyrant, and Ottoman accounts that paint him as a fearsome but worthy opponent. They described Vlad dining among impaled victims, forcing mothers to eat their children, and committing countless other atrocities. But modern historians approach these accounts with skepticism. Many were written by his political enemies, or those seeking to profit from sensational tales. The truth, as always, likely lies somewhere between the extremes. Centuries later, Bram Stoker would borrow Vlad's family name for his vampire count. But contrary to popular belief, the real Vlad had no connection to vampirism. The vampire myths actually originated from local folklore about creatures called moroi, lost souls who drank animal blood. Today, Vlad III remains a controversial figure. In Romania, many view him as a strict but just ruler who defended his homeland against foreign aggression. His tactical brilliance and administrative reforms are praised, while his cruelty is often contextualized within his violent era. His castles draw thousands of tourists each year, though ironically, many come looking for vampires rather than historical truth. The real Vlad, it seems, has been overshadowed by the fictional character who borrowed his name. So who was the real Vlad the Impaler? A cruel tyrant who reveled in bloodshed, a tactical genius fighting impossible odds, a misunderstood ruler doing what was necessary in a brutal age. Perhaps he was all of these things. His story reminds us that history isn't always black and white, and that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not the undead who drink blood, but the very human rulers who spill it. One thing is certain: long before Bram Stoker penned his famous novel, the real Dracula had already written his story in history's pages, not with ink, but with blood and iron. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to receive updates on more fascinating historical mysteries and dark tales from the past.